Hey, it's Matt from Black Coal Woodworking. Welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how I made these three vases for your dried flowers. I threw this one in at the end because it was a disaster, and I wanted to show you how I recovered from that. Enjoy.
First thing to do is choose a log from the pile. This one looks pretty good. I can get a few vases from that. Then I use my roughing gouge to knock this thing down to round. The spindle roughing gouge doesn't leave a great finish on the surface, so I switch to the skew to clean things up. That's what I'm looking for. So this next part I'm going to use a peeling cut to rough out the shape. The bottom part of this vase is going to have a bulb with a kind of a long tapered point like I showed you at the beginning. But I found that removing the bulk of the material with a peeling cut like you're seeing here is a super easy and quick way to get rid of a lot of that mass. So when I want to kind of turn a half bead here, then I can do that so much easier. I don't have to take a lot of very small passes anymore. I can do the peeling cut, and then I can move straight into finalizing that half bead shape, and it's going to be nice and clean and smooth. On the top end, I'm going to do the same thing. Those ribbons are seriously so satisfying to make. And you can see that I'm going at an angle there because I'm still kind of working out the shape in my head. I know that I want it to be a bulb, but I can remove a lot of material super fast. And then as I go, I kind of just refine because I saw that I wasn't quite round enough on the bottom side. And so you'll see me go back and forth here as I try to make this thing round. Can't seem to pick up my cut there either. Probably need to sharpen my tool. But really now we're getting into the process of trying to make a round bud vase. One thing I've learned when making these beads is sometimes you don't want to start with a peeling bead cut. Sometimes it's easier to start with the heel of the skew, the point. So for the most part you'll see me try to use the flat like I just did here. But when it comes to refining the shape after that, I find that I get more catches than I really want if I don't start by using the point, like that. So when I start the point, then it becomes a lot easier to not get a catch and still refine my shape without having to make some unexpected design changes. Sometimes going slow is the fastest way to go. If I take my time and make these cuts right, I don't have to do any rework or, like I said, sudden design changes. This vase took me around 7 or 8 minutes all in, and that's including some things that you're not seeing like sharpening tools, sanding, and applying all the finish. To make the covey part of the vase, I switched to my 1/2-inch spindle gouge. Now if you'll notice, it's getting shiny where I cut, and that's because I'm making sure to apply pressure on the bevel. And that bevel really helps ensure you get a clean cut. Obviously, the less sanding, the better. So again, while it looks like I'm moving slow, I'm really only taking 2 passes with a spindle gouge to be done that part of the vase. On to finishing. My usual finish is walnut oil, shellac, and beeswax. And there you have it. The last thing to do would be to cut off that bit of the bottom there that's sticking out or sand it away, and move on to the next vase. This one's going to be a very simple shape. And again, I start with my spindle rough and gouge to get it round. I find that's a pretty efficient way to go. First, I've got to knock off all the high spots before I can speed up the amount of material that I take off in one pass. It's kind of a rinse and repeat here, onto the skew to make a nice smooth surface. This one, I'm getting those awesome little shavings, curly fries, wooden noodles, whatever you prefer. And then on the bottom, I'm going to use a peeling cut just to straighten it out, and then a slicing cut to make it extremely smooth on the bottom. And then I'm going to add a tiny little taper, or chamfer I guess, to that bottom edge, just so it's nicely finished. And that's the bottom done. For the top, I'm going to use the same peeling cut that I did in the first vase. And again, using it to rough out the shape, kind of giving it the same angles and things that I want. And then I'm going to move over to that same slice cut here to finesse the surface so that it's really clean. After that, it's on to the 1/2 inch spindle gouge again to finish that little cove part of the vase. I mean, this vase is almost like cheating. It's really simple, but it's an elegant design, and sometimes the simple stuff's the way to go. The finish on this one is the same: walnut oil, shellac, and beeswax. So this vase took me around 6 minutes to complete. This particular hunk of wood had a lot of extra stuff sticking out, so it took a little longer with the rough and gouge. Maybe that should have been a hint for me, because this piece is the one that almost ended in disaster. Definitely had a recovery plan on this one. My canvas is ready. One thing I'm trying to learn is to really make a round shape. For me, it's harder than it looks. I end up having to do a lot of refinement. I've got to remember to turn my skew all the way over to get that round shape. And here I'm trying to set up a shoulder so I can make my cove cuts to get to that point that I've been doing, like in the first vase. This is where things start to go disastrously wrong. That point ain't going to be very pointy like that. So my recovery plan now means I'm going to use my 1/2 inch spindle gouge to create the taper that I want, but I got to be super careful because obviously there's a lot less wood holding this on the lathe. So some spontaneous design decisions here. I'm not going to have a bead for the shoulder anymore, it's just going to be flat. And if I can get that taper further up on the left side there, I'm kind of nibbling away at it now because I don't want this thing to fly off the lathe. I can still get some length out of that part. It just means that I'm going to have to do some creative sanding later to make it look a little better, like it didn't break for some reason. So that's as far as I dared to go up the top of the vase. Don't want to risk it breaking. Time to clean up the rest of the bottom so I can finish this off. I didn't like that little imperfection at the top of that taper, so I made an extremely light cut with my spindle gouge again, just to clean it up a little bit better. So after the finishing, I went over to my disc sander and I really just sanded a taper from the part of the vase at the top that's not broken to the part that is broken on one side, and I ended up with a half decent looking shape. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed the video. If I've earned it, consider subscribing, give the video a thumbs up, and I'll catch you guys next time.